for this one.
Yes.
We said no to that one. So
It's a good name for a cigar.
the Dog Shocker.
Oh, yeah, you better start
Well,
somewhere.
here we can talk about the creative process here when we get into it a little deeper.
Okay.
Anyhow, we are here on the One Bourbon, One Cigar Small Business Podcast, and today is kind of a special one. Not kind of, it is. We are joined by Derek. I don't know what's your last name.
Matthews.
Derek Matthews and James
Brown.
James. Oh, all right. Can you dance a little like James Brown too? I probably can. Okay. And then Jody, we got off camera.
That was
He's
a
an
new joke.
important element of the team. They are the owners of Blackworks Trading Company.
Black Label Trading
Sorry, I'm
Company.
going to get this. Black
And
Label
Blackwork
Trading
Studio.
Blackworks Studio, a very wonderful cigar company. They make boutique cigars, really good cigars. We are going to get heavy into cigar knowledge here with you guys. We are also joined by Dwayne and Val, the owners of Creekside Cigar Lounge here. They let us host the podcast.
And we're going to get heavy into no knowledge.
Yes. So we are going to ask Derek and James a lot of questions about cigars. You're going to learn a lot about their brand, kind of the process, which is kind of the part that a lot of people don't understand. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to people watching and listening to really learn something. And so we're excited to hear about the process with you guys. So first of all, we'd like to just we'll start things off a little light. We'll jump in heavy into the cigar knowledge here in a little bit. But I'd like to just have you guys introduce yourselves a little. Married, kids, why you went into this business briefly, and if you couldn't be doing this, what would you be doing? And then we'll jump heavy into a little more about yourselves, and then heavy on the cigars. So,
Take it.
All right. I'm James, like you said. Married
okay,
for 20 years and
Right
have
on.
a 16-year-old son.
okay,
My wife and I, we left the U.S. about 20 years ago, right after we got married, and kind of lived all over, and are now in Nicaragua,
Oh,
obviously,
okay.
and running our factory there and doing the business.
okay,
And I'm Derek Matthews. I live here locally, and in between, it's technically Temple, but it's actually closer to Belton.
It's North Belton.
Yeah, nobody cares. He's the one asking
We're
the
actually
question.
neighbors.
So.
We're actually neighbors.
Yeah, we found out on a walk.
Yes.
We ran into each other in the neighborhood. But
It's
I'm married for 19 years. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and goes to school here locally. And we are, let's see, I've been in the cigar business since 2011, and I joined Black Label as part of the group in 2016
Okay,
as a partner. I do the U.S. operations, basically is kind of my responsibility to oversee the accounts, our team, distribution with our warehouse, things of that nature. So, yeah, and I live here locally, and this is a great spot. Thanks for having us over.
yes. And so, James, you're only up here every now and again then. So this is kind of a special deal to have you
Yeah,
here,
correct. So
stateside.
yeah, I'm in Nicaragua, living there full time, but I do still, come up for events,
Hold
and
Derek.
shop visits, things like that. So
Kick Derek in the ass if he needs it here and
no. I try to stay as uninvolved in this side of the business as
All
I
right.
possibly can.
Okay.
So,
All right,
we
well,
all have our specialties, and
there. Okay.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming up and taking the time to hang out with us. Dwayne and Val, introduce yourselves quickly here, and we'll keep on moving here.
Ladies first.
Okay. So, I'm Valerie Williams, and Dwayne and I started this adventure with Creekside Cigar about 1.5 years ago, and it's been a fantastic ride. Me, myself, I've never smoked anything in my life, not marijuana, not cigarettes,
Okay.
nothing.
Me neither.
And kind of got into it through Dwayne, and we actually got had a part-time job at a fellow cigar lounge for a while, and that lounge closed down temporarily, so we were out of jobs, and we decided to start our own. And so we found this place in Belton.
Right back to that bad influence thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anyway, I'm just loving the whole cigar adventure on being able to smoke cigars, learning about them, meeting wonderful people, you know, anywhere from owners, reps, and then just the guests that come in. It's pretty cool.
And I'm Dwayne Williams, and I plunge toilets every once in a while there and
Jeez.
smoke cigars.
You're the janitor here?
I do R&D, but it's not really a whole lot of development. It's more research than anything else.
Hey, you know what?
That's about it.
All right. Well, how did you guys actually meet?
So I didn't know I knew him, but when I was, I used to work at that lounge where
Yes.
they worked many years ago, but we didn't work together at the same time.
Right.
We didn't overlap.
Right.
And when I would go into that shop after I had joined Black Label and left there, and I met them. They were clerking there, and you know, with your ear to the ground in the cigar industry, it's a very closed industry.
Yes.
You know, everybody knows what everybody else is doing. And I had heard that they were looking to open something, and lucky for me, they opened something about 5 minutes from my house. So I just started coming up to meet with them, see what, even when they were doing the build out, I'd pop my head in to,
Yep.
and offer. I wasn't trying to stick my nose in, but if they had any questions, and you know,
Right.
obviously with me, this was going to become my local because it is so close. And they were very willing and open to explore our brand. And if you walk in the humidor here, you can see we are featured very prominently, and we're very grateful for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we go too much further, I can see we're all smoking.
Yes.
What are we all smoking today?
If you talk about what we're smoking, since you.
I'm smoking The Last Rites,
Okay.
which is I'm smoking it in a new Vitola that just came out this year at PCA, which is a 5x50 Robusto. And The Last Rites is kind of a unique cigar for me because it's the first cigar that I blended on my own
Oh,
for
wow.
kind of my specific tastes at that time. So it was
Okay.
kind of like my first child, you know. So
All right.
still one of my favorites, still one of my go-tos.
Okay.
And Derek is smoking the new rendition of the Bishop's Blend, which Bishop's Blend is a cigar that we first released in 2016. It's also a really unique cigar for our company because I always tell people it's a cigar that I couldn't have made up until that point. So it's kind of a culmination of everything I had learned about cigar making
Okay.
up until that point. Kind of went into developing the Bishop's Blend, and then when it came out in 2016, I think for the company as a whole, it was a cigar that really kind of put us on the map for a lot of people.
Okay.
So it was, you know, a huge success for us and really opened the doors to a lot of people seeing our brand and seeing our company. So
All right.
this year's the Derek Smoking is going to be kind of a new iteration of that called the Novemdialis. So this year is Black Label's 10-year anniversary, so we're doing a lot of special projects
alright.
this year. The Novemdialis is one of them, so we tweaked the blend a little bit on it, and it also has a Pennsylvania broadleaf wrapper as opposed to the traditional Ecuadorian Maduro that it normally has. So.
And I'm looking forward to understanding what more of that means. What am I smoking here, James?
You're smoking another one of our original Coraline cigars called the Salvation.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really cool. What are you guys smoking over here?
I got a con. You know my joke is I'm not overly familiar with their stuff. I only smoke Cuban.
Keep calling ours Cuban then. You smoke a lot of our stuff.
You said James would laugh, but he did smile. He gave you
Well,
he did give you a crooked smile.
That's like a laugh from James.
Alright.
If you know James, that's like a laugh.
Okay, well,
Laugh
hey,
on the,
all
I
right.
laugh on the inside.
All right. Well, you elicited
Yeah,
a good
this
smile.
is a con. This is one of their special blends that they make for events, I believe.
So, okay, so a very limited release.
it's
when
a
you do
Tiger.
those. Okay.
Oh, the
So,
Tiger series.
Well,
do you mind if I jump in on that one? Yeah, so that was, you know, because we have our own factory down in Esteli, we would, when people would come to visit us, there were special cigars you could only get at the factory. And we started that out calling it our Tiger series because of the barber pole, the stripes
Yeah.
on
Okay.
the cigar. And we have three, well now four, but three iterations that we sell in the U.S., one of which is the Con.
Yeah.
So that's what the story is. And it's only available at events.
and so because we're just going to get right into cigars because it's just too interesting.
Oh wait, I gotta do
Okay,
mine.
yes.
I have
Do that, and then I have a
po-
question about this.
So I'm smoking the Poison Dart.
It always takes the woman longer to get there.
Poison Dart. And so this one also is a limit. It's a limited release. So it's not considered a show special, correct? Or
Well,
is it?
It was a trade show exclusive.
Yes, for PCA.
And James had put a Matafina, Brazilian Matafina wrapper on that cigar. And so we used that poison dart theme. The iteration of that, I think you had said your inspiration was...
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do something that represented Brazil,
Right.
you know, so
Oh, okay.
the blue poison dart frog is
Yes.
indigenous
Yeah.
to Brazil, so it was kind of the theme we ended up going with for the cigar.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Well, so how do you do this? How do you get that wrapper on there? How do you roll that to get that? I mean, that looks like an involved process. I mean, if it's
It is.
proprietary, you don't obviously have to.
No, so
reveal
it's
it.
yeah. I mean, it's when you look at cigars like that, the Con, the Neon Tiger, the Tiger Lily, the Bengal. You know, those cigars take us 4 to 5 times longer to make
really?
than a regular cigar. So,
Okay.
you know, it is a series of 3 to 4 different wrappers. You know, each one is cut into individual strips, layered over each other, wrapped. The Con is technically the most difficult cigar that we make because not only does it have the multiple wrappers, it has a candela closed foot,
yep.
it has the linear cap, and then it also has a candela pigtail. So, you know, normally a pigtail is going to be whatever the cap wrapper is. We actually create the pigtail separately and then attach it to the cigar in
yeah.
a different color. So, yeah, that cigar for us is extremely time consuming.
So where one day, James, you're like, you know what? This cigar is not hard enough to make. We're gonna do it this way.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, you know, we started the Tiger series with the Neon Tiger, and, you know, everybody fell in love with that cigar, and I wanted to kind of continue the series going. So, yeah, the next idea was like, okay, well, what can be kind of a step up, you
Okay.
know, looks-wise from the Neon Tiger? And so, yeah, the Con came next, which, you know, became the most
So was
complicated.
Khan because of Jungle Book? Shere Khan? Wasn't that the tiger
No.
from? Oh, well, I don't know. I'm asking what
Con
the...
is just tiger in India.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, there we go. I'm learning things.
Yeah.
I'm getting taught here. Well, it is a beautiful looking cigar for sure, and
Yeah.
understanding the process, and I mean, that is a work of art, really.
Yeah, and
to-
that's the thing about cigars. They are a work of art.
So, do you get more flavors through that when you get those different wrappers, or is that
you
just more an
definitely-
aesthetic?
I mean, they do definitely add to the flavor
Sorry, Bill.
profile, yeah. So, you know, as they burn, you're definitely getting notes of all of those different wrappers.
Okay. Sorry, Val. Go
Oh
ahead. You
no,
were-
I was just saying the cigars themselves are a work of art. Even from just your basic one wrap leaf all the way up to this, because they're hand rolled. I mean, there's people. What is it, like 300 hands touch a cigar to make?
More or less. I've
Basically.
never counted myself. But, you
To
know.
make one cigar, it goes by the time this from start to finish of a cigar, from the seed, I guess,
Yes.
planting the seed, all the way up to the cigar we are smoking. Over, you know, roughly 300 hands will touch.
Well, yeah. I mean,
But
once
the
you
only
see
ones that
it-
really matter is the last two,
yeah.
because they're the ones that get to enjoy it.
Well, I mean, you start to, like anything that's precision and well crafted, you understand why the cost. Some people don't know, why is that, anything of life, like, why does that cost what, well, if you understood the process, you'd go, that's all I'm paying?
Right,
So,
right.
well, all right, well, thank you. That was very informative. I would just like to ask you guys a few questions before we get into the cigars, you know, just about you. I want to introduce you to people and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. So what would you say is a motto you guys live by? Something that guides your thoughts.
I don't know, I mean, it's a little trite, but it is true. I work very hard and I try to play really hard. I mean, this is in the best way that it can be expressed, being in this business is a daily grind.
Yes.
I mean, there is always something more to do. There's not a lot of time to relax, and you know, if you do, you fall behind.
Right.
And we're definitely a very forward-thinking company. We try to do things not only on the factory side, but on the sales side to keep things interesting and fresh and helpful. Like I was showing you some aspects of our website that we've developed. You know, and James is a creative mastermind. It kills me to say it because he's like my brother. So, you know, you don't want to compliment your brother too much.
Yeah.
But he is a very talented
Yes.
man who's the brainchild behind it. And it's inspiring for me, for what I do, to know that my other, you know, the other people on the team are grinding that hard, and it makes me want to do it too. So it's a work hard and enjoy your time.
Okay. You know, I want to get back into these cigars in a little while because the first, third, middle, you know. But anyway, sorry. I was just thinking about it because it was really good. I'm really enjoying it. But James, how about you? What is a motto you live by?
You know, I think when it comes to the business, you know, I very much don't like to look to the past, right? Like cigars are a very old school type of thing.
Sure.
And when I decided to start this, I wanted to make sure that we were just very forward thinking. You know, like we don't have a history in the cigar business,
Okay,
right?
sure.
Like, you know, when I started it, I was coming at it completely as an outsider. And I always wanted to prove that, you know, somebody could do that. You know what I mean? You could dedicate your time and your energy towards learning this craft and doing things differently, you know. So I'm always looking to do something a little bit different, something that people haven't seen in the industry before, you know,
Okay.
whether it's the flavor profiles of the cigars, the vitolas, the artwork. You know, I very much want our brand to be something that stands out and is, you know, kind of unique and trend-setting in a way. So
I will say it stands out. When I walk into the humidor, you can see like, okay, oh wow, that is amazing art, and you know, and that's why we'll get into those. I got some questions for you on that. So obviously, I'm imagining this is probably going to be the answer. What is your biggest passion? Let's say not including cigars.
Well, I mean,
Because usually a lot of times your passion is your work, but
sure,
is there something else that...
Obviously, my priority, like everybody else, is my family. But when I'm by myself, I like to get into my office and turn up my stereo really loudly and listen to my records. That's what makes me happy. And it's funny because my wife will know if I've not done that for a while and I'm getting a little grouchy. She'll say, you know, it's her way of saying, she goes, you haven't really listened to your records in a while. I think that's her way of telling me, you need to go take some time for yourself and relax.
Now, when you say records, you're saying vinyl.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
look, the vinyl thing lately, you know, the last decade or two has been real trendy. But, you know, I have records that I had when I was a kid. You know, I came about before the advent of CD and all that thing. So I still had all that stuff boxed up at my parents' house. And I like to do the it's getting harder and harder to do, but doing the bin diving, going into the dollar bin and finding something that you can't, you know, what I used to be able to find for $1 in the dollar bin, now, you know, it's selling for $30.
Right.
So, you know, but that's, it's vinyl records.
Okay. That's a big passion of yours?
Yeah.
How about you, James?
sneakers.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Oh, yes.
And that is something that's interesting because I mean, I grew up in when Michael Jordan was, he kind of put sneakers on the map, and well, maybe not so much, but now they're collectible, and you can, I imagine why, because I can see your artistic, like you can really, the shoe is a blank canvas.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, you guys mentioned music a little bit. Like, what kind of music do you guys like listening to?
I mean, they came over today and I had a Bruce Hornsby record on. So, I mean, it's everything. I listen to like a lot of old hip hop. I like a lot of old rock. I like, you know, the old school country stuff. And I really like, I just like talent, and I like hearing talent being performed.
Yes.
And don't,
nowadays.
I just like to experience what somebody else has created for me, and you know, I was the guy that liked to take out the sleeve and read all the lyrics and the liner notes, and I'm not alone in that, but it's still, and I'm trying to, you know, my daughter's starting to get into that, so that's exciting to watch as a parent.
Yeah.
Favorite record then? Favorite vinyl record?
I'm
going to ask you James' favorite set of sneakers.
My favorite vinyl record is my Black Crowes Crowology 3-disc set. It's an acoustic version where they performed, you know, probably 30 songs of their older material from years before.
Okay.
It's a rare, but I don't like it because it's rare. I like it because many of the songs on there I find to be better than the original recordings.
Oh,
So they revisited it. Like, we're having our 10-year anniversary
Yeah.
It was a 10-year anniversary of their work.
Jeez.
I knew he was going to say Black Crows. I didn't know what album. I knew he was going to say Black
Okay, all right.
You know, I
Yeah.
also love Prince, and I love Rush,
Yeah.
and I love Bruce Hornsby. So I'm all over the map.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's a good eclectic collection. How about you, James? Your favorite set of sneakers, or I guess is there a favorite designer of sneakers that you like?
I mean, it's pretty easy for me. My favorite sneaker of all time is the Jordan 4 Black Cement.
So Jordan. So that would have been the Jordan 4. So that's
Jordan
the fourth
4 Black
iteration?
Cement, yeah. So, and for me, it's because it's a very nostalgic shoe
Is
for
that
me.
the one with
so.
the silver, like that part? It was all black and then had the silver area right by the. Shoot.
Does it have the webbing? Is that
Yeah,
the
that's
one
what I
that has
was.
the webbing?
That
Yeah.
silver-looking webbing or whatever on the side of the shoe. Is that the one?
It's black, but
Okay, it's
Yeah.
black. Okay, well you said. I do remember the black one.
yeah. So it's nostalgic for me because I remember getting that shoe as a
Okay.
kid, and I remember kind of that feeling and really loving it. And sneakers have always been a huge part of my life since I was a kid. So
Okay.
that shoe just has always been the one for me.
So you liked it before it was cool, because now it's.
Well,
kind
yeah,
of-
I mean, I owned it in 1989
But
or
I'm saying
whatever it
like
was.
shoes
so,
were,
yeah.
you know what I mean. But shoe,
Yeah.
like you appreciated shoes long before.
Yeah, I
they
always,
become
always,
collectible
yeah,
now,
I mean,
and
yeah,
Right.
throughout my, I remember when I was 8 years old, I got my first pair of Jordan 1s, and,
Okay.
so yeah, it's always been a part of my life.
those Jordans
That's
are
cool.
they are cool. And now to see even what some old pair that was hanging on a clothes or a power line, you can still sell them for.
What
It's
do,
just-
what do I got to do to get those weapons out of you? Those Converse, those black and silver weapons. How much is that going to cost me? I mean,
I do have those.
yeah, you do have those. Those are dope. I love those shoes.
the what?
They're your
what-
size.
I'm not even a big. I like a few sneakers.
Yeah.
James is obviously. I mean, he's kind of legendary in the cigar industry and beyond. Even people that don't smoke that go to follow our Instagram or,
Right.
just it's. I kind of feel like I got my hands in my pocket when we're walking down the hall somewhere together, and people stop that's not even in the cigar industry, and they're wanting to talk to him about the shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So you're kind of synonymous with the yeah. That's,
I like what I like, and I'm gonna just try to squeeze those weapons out of them. At some
all
point.
right.
Yes.
Well, maybe this kind of
Cool.
coincides with the passion. How about, like I said, you work hard all the time. You're constantly thinking about this, I'm sure. Is there any hobbies you have to go unwind, or do you just go and listen to?
I mean, I like to travel, but it's a lot of my travel now is obviously work related. I don't really take a lot of time while I'm doing that to go off the work path because, like I said, it's a grind. But I like traveling with my family, and we take a little bit of time. Like we've been down to Nicaragua to visit James and his
Yeah.
family, with my family a few times,
Okay.
or a time or two, and we're going to be doing that again this year. So I like to travel, and I just like being with my wife. Really, I find out when I'm on the road and I'm stressed, all I really think about is I want to be home with those two.
Hey, 19
Yeah.
years, outstanding.
Yeah,
20 years.
We still like
outstanding.
we
I
still
love it.
like each other.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
so-
amazing how that,
Yeah,
that
it's crazy.
works? I know.
How about you, James?
I would say same travel. So my
Okay.
wife and I love to travel. We've kind of over the last 20 years been to a lot of parts of the world, and our life in Nicaragua is pretty simple. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So it's we like to. It's funny because we live there on the beach, and
Oh, really?
so when we travel, we kind of want the opposite. So
Yeah.
we go to New York a lot. We go to Los Angeles a lot.
Oh,
we like to go
okay.
to
You go where the hustle and
Paris.
bustle is, huh?
Yeah, so but that's kind of our thing is we like to travel as often as we can.
Have you traveled a lot of Central and South America there then?
Yes.
Okay, I
Most
would
of it.
imagine so because.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get a couple more here. Is there anything maybe professionally or personally you're looking forward to here in the future?
I mean, I just love watching them. I'm not a look as the national sales manager and one of the owners. Obviously, the numbers are really important to me, but I'm not a numbers geek.
Right.
My wife, thankfully, is excellent on spreadsheets, but I just like it every quarter when I look and seeing the growth.
Yes.
Okay.
Continued to
Yes.
grow for the last 6 or 7 years, and it's been phenomenal. And we have, so that gets me going. Knowing that we have a solid sales force also excites me. So I like that's my favorite part of the business is knowing that we're being successful. It tells us that we're on the right track.
Okay. How about you, James?
You know what? I always just look forward to whatever our next project is. You know?
Okay.
So for me, you know, on the cigar development side, I mean, that's kind of what I'm most passionate about in you know, our business, and developing whatever the next thing's going to be, seeing people's response to it, you
Sure.
know, coming up with the artwork, and so that's really what drives me. Is always kind of looking forward to that next project and next cigar. And
Yeah, I bet your mind never stops.
That's that creative mind working.
I'm sure
Yeah,
it never
you know, and it's
stops
like-
spinning.
yeah, because the way this industry works is like I have to think about cigars today that may not be on the market till 2024, 2025, you know, because there's a lot of time and effort that goes into developing those blends and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely a constant thing of just trying to work out, you know, where are we going? What are we going to
Okay.
do next?
I think this would be a fun one for, especially with the industry you guys are in, and maybe it won't even be these people, but if you could have a drink or a stogie with any, I don't know, you guys prefer, can I say the word stogie?
Say whatever you
All
want,
right,
man. It's
all
your show.
I know. A delicious cigar. If you could have a drink or a cigar with any historical figure, who would it be?
Wow. I've been asked that before, and I feel like I never have a good answer. Whew. You don't have anything there? I mean,
No old cigar blender, old people back in the day that are...
I was really, when I started my cigar journey, I was really studying a bit of Ramon Iones, who's a Cuban cigar blender who I thought had I can't tell you a lot about his story anymore because I just don't remember anymore. But I remember being taken and wanting to dive in and learn things like that. The funny thing about when you get into business is the things that I knew 10, 12 years ago, I retain a lot of it, but sometimes I'll say, wait, what's rojizo? You know, it slips because there's only so much. I'm worrying about, well, one of my reps had an accident on the road or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't really, there's not a person that comes to mind. A lot of people smoking is a social thing, and I definitely enjoy that, but I really like smoking by myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone in the cigar. If a musician, if you wanted to hang out with a musician, a Benjamin Franklin.
If
can
it
be
was a
anyone in
musician,
history.
I would love to smoke with Geddy Lee.
Yes.
I would love just to pick that guy's brain and hear about his development as a musician and things of that nature.
Okay. I watched the behind the music on that, and they were some geniuses.
Yeah.
They were all into the process of making music. So, all right. Well, I feel like we got to know you enough to kind of tease people, so that's good to get to know you guys a little better. Now it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of all this, the cigar. And this is where I'm going to lean on you guys too to ask some questions, and then we'll put a bow on it and talk more about business and your kind of your input on small business, and because you are a small business.
We are.
I mean, how many people do you guys employ from here and then in the factory
We have,
in Nicaragua?
there's 4 of us in the ownership group that is Black Label Trading Company. And then we have a sales force of 9 or 10 depending on how you look at it, because I do call on some accounts.
Okay.
So that's really, I mean, we work with other partners within the industry, obviously all the retailers, our distributor and things of that nature. But our company, when I look at it, it's our team and our team of reps.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, let's get into cigars. And if you guys have a question that rolls into your brain, I don't know, the hamster wheel, get it spinning in there, Dwayne. Let's go right back to the beginning. When did you become interested in cigars? Like, just interested, not even the business or any of that, just interested in cigars. Were you at a lounge like this and smoking cigars?
Yeah, what kind of sparked that?
I started smoking cigarettes when I was about 13.
Okay.
And I smoked for a lot of years until I was about 20. And at that time, I had, you know, through a lot of different channels, had kind of developed this passion for wine. And I knew I wanted to go into the wine industry. I wanted to become a sommelier.
Oh, wow.
And so I knew to do that, I was going to have to quit smoking, right? 'Cause I knew
Yeah, your palate
Yeah, my
and all.
palate was not going to respond well with cigarette smoking, things like that. So I quit smoking cigarettes, for several years, and as I became a sommelier and was in the wine industry, I started kind of dabbling in cigars and liking cigars, but it was all very casual. And then I took a job at a restaurant called Anthony's in Tucson, Arizona. Great place. We were a Wine Spectator Grand Award-winning restaurant, so very heavy focus on the wine department. But the owner, Anthony, also owned a chain of cigar stores that are still around today. Anthony's. So he really opened my eyes up to what cigars could be, and taught me a lot about cigars. And really, that's kind of where my appreciation for cigars started.
Okay. Well, yeah, obviously as a wine, you're into the nuance and all the finer notes and things like that.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I think I was...
You appreciated that kind of stuff.
I think I was lucky to, be born with a good palate.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it's something that I've kind of trained and developed, but yeah, I'm definitely all about flavor profiles.
Okay. How about you, Derek?
Well, mine's a little more simple than that. It's not as romantic. But I was, I grew up here in Texas. I moved to California for a while, 7 or 8 years, and when I came back, an old college friend and I were sitting around a campfire one night, and he was working at a retail shop up in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he handed me a cigar. And up to that point, my experience with tobacco, for cigars anyway, had been things like Swisher Sweets or White Owls or things of that nature.
Right.
And he handed me a premium handmade cigar, and I said, I finished it, and I said, give me another one. And he did, and I said, I'm going to buy a box of these. And he said, hold on, there's a whole world out there. And I dove headfirst into magazines, podcasts, going to shops, anything and everything I could absorb. And that's where I started on that part of the journey. I was talking about reading about different makers and the process. And took a job at the retail store we talked about, and I ended up becoming a certified retail tobacconist.
Oh, yes.
And that's where I was working at the shop. And actually the first time I met James and his wife, Angela, and the other partner, Stephanie, they had come up to do an event there. James and I kind of hit it off in the humidor. I think he liked how I was selling. And we developed a relationship. It didn't happen overnight. Just like a nice, organic, casual development. And that was my journey to get to this point.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, mine was not as romantic, even less romantic than yours. How about you guys? What got you into cigars?
Oh, I was playing poker with guys at that shop, and they would. All I'd ever been around, same thing, Swisher Sweets was, and I would go, those things just stink to high heaven. Why would I smoke cigarettes? I was like, why would anybody want to smoke one of those? I got around those guys playing poker, and they're all smoking great cigars. And I was like, now this I can dig. So I started, I was dabbling in it. I'd smoke 1 or 2 a week. When we got a job at the shop, then it turned into, well, this is interesting as hell. So with the cigar a day, which the owner gave us, to try everything in the humidors. I was always smoking cigars, but on the other hand, I was reading history of cigars. Not so much the guys that were doing stuff now, just all the old history from everything. So I was like, this is so cool. Same journey for me.
All right.
And then I met Derek, and all hell broke loose.
All right. And Val, I know you said you were a recent convert to the cigar world.
Yep. So I didn't really get into any kind of cigar smoking until probably 2021 and
21 or 22, I don't know. Something.
Yeah, because you were going there, and every once in a while I'd go with you and take a few puffs off of his cigar, and I'm like, no way. But then when we both, got hired there, he came home and said, guess what, I got you a job. And I'm like, I already have a job. I don't need another job. And he says, but you're going to like this. It's only part-time. And I said, okay, so what are we going to be doing? We're going to be working in a cigar lounge. And I said, okay, and what part of the job am I going to be doing? Oh, retail. You're going to be selling cigars. And I was like, I don't know anything about cigars. So
your wife always loves it when you come and say, I got you a job.
Yeah, but
that's exactly like what they hear. Yeah.
I think it would be remiss if we didn't mention, you wanted that tobacconist handbook, and you did.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
It's awesome.
So, yes.
What is a tobacconist then?
A
Just
tobacconist
for the
is a
layman.
specialist in premium tobacco, whether it be pipes or cigars.
So are you
Right.
both tobacconists? I would.
I mean, James is a trained wine sommelier. His
Okay.
palate, I think he's beyond a tobacconist.
Okay.
But a tobacconist, it really, there's two ways to say it. You can say like a driver, professional driver, a guy who drives a limousine, or there's the guys who drive F1.
Sure.
So a tobacconist is somebody who works in a, premium retail space for selling premium tobacco. A certified tobacconist is someone who's gone through a curriculum to learn and study and
Right.
taken an exam and like becoming a sommelier in that way.
Right.
So it's basically, think of it as a tobacco sommelier.
Okay. All right.
Maybe
I
overstate,
got a
but
question.
Yeah.
On obviously the palate whole thing, I understand that somewhat. And we've had this discussion plenty of times.
Yeah, this is why I'm glad to have, because Dwayne's always like, I like what I like. I'm like,
People
good,
are
we're gonna get taught.
people,
He's
what
gonna get
what
taught here.
notes do you get? You guys just got like this random thing. It says notes of cedar, and you just check one off every so often. Just no, doesn't work that way.
No, no. I mean, I think it's one of the most unique and interesting things about cigars is that every person essentially has a different experience, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because everybody's palate's a little bit different.
Right.
Some people supposedly pick up on a lot of very unique things in cigars. Some people don't. So I'm always very curious to hear people's feedback on our product because I know what my intentions were blending it,
okay.
what I get from it, but it's always interesting to hear like what
Right.
other people experience because a lot of times it's really surprising to me, but yeah, you can give 3 different people the same cigar and they're
Right.
going to have 3 different,
Yeah.
And see that's where I get to. What notes do people sit up here? Oh, I taste this, and I'm going. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
That's all I get.
Well,
I
part
mean,
of the,
I was going to say, I kind of like when we're at the factory and we do our blending seminar and we talk about all the individual tobaccos and smoke them, I always tell people like, you can take it or leave it. People that are, talking about shiitake mushrooms and this and that or whatever it is they're getting out of a cigar. But there are, I think, some key fundamental flavor components that definitely do exist, right? Like, so people talk about spice in a cigar.
Yeah.
When it comes to spice, there are definitely
Yeah.
different varieties there. So you have, everything from like a baking type spice, which would be more on the cinnamon side of things, nutmeg side of things. Then you have, all the different pepper spices. So
Like
Yeah.
lawless.
you can get like distinct white pepper or black pepper. You can get like a chili type spice, like kind of like a cayenne type.
Yeah.
note. So spice is one of those things where yes, I do think you can distinctly pick out
Right.
different variances there.
Right.
I think notes like herbal notes, cedar notes, things like that are definitely there. So yeah, but I think it is, for most people, it's a more generic thing than it is all these like very complex
Yes.
individual things. And like you said, at the end of the day, the important thing is whether you like the cigar or you don't like the cigar.
Right.
If it's your...
I actually pick up the spice more when I retrohale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just
part of being you were asking about a tobacconist. Part of being a tobacconist, whether someone has a very advanced palate or they just like it or don't like it, is finding out what your customers, when Johnny Ray walks through the
Oh, yeah.
door, I know he likes the dark, heavy stuff,
Correct.
Yeah.
And when Jimmy Ray walks in, I know he likes more mild and crisp,
Yeah.
type Connecticut
Yeah,
maybe flavor. So
I-
it's your job to know that as a tobacconist as,
Yeah.
as
Sure.
you develop your customer base.
Sure.
right, and I've got we're pretty good with that. Most of us here. Most people that come in here more than 2 or 3 times, I can tell you what they're going to like and what they're not going to like. If I get something new on the shelf, I say, hey, I got this new one you might like.
Right.
That's true.
Because I know
You guys haven't led me
I know that.
astray on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, kind of in that same wheelhouse, I think what a lot of people struggle with, consumers especially, is a differentiation between strength and flavor. or strength and body in a cigar.
Oh,
Which
sure.
are two very different things. You
Yes.
know, I mean, it's
Okay, but I'm a noob, so this will be very helpful.
well, you know, I mean, strength really comes down to nicotine content,
Okay.
right? It's not about whether the cigar is spicy. It's not about whether it's, you know, bold or
Right.
earthy or dark and heavy. It's about the nicotine content in
Okay.
the cigar. So, you know, strength is its own individual thing.
Oh,
You can
alright.
smoke a spicy, you know, bold cigar, and it's not necessarily going to be very powerful in nicotine, you know,
Okay.
and vice versa. So, what we strive for as a brand, and what I strive for as a cigar maker, is finding what I consider that perfect balance between strength and flavor. I would never make a cigar solely based on strength just to make a strong cigar.
Sure.
I mean, flavor wins every time.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
and it's and the tobaccos we work with and kind of the style that I work in is finding that balance between the two.
All right.
Because in reality, you know, especially the American consumer, people talk strong and smoke medium. So that's just,
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
yeah, that's just the way it is.
All right.
You know?
And see, that's what's funny, because
Okay.
people to me, but being that I smoke cigarettes too still,
Yeah.
people to me, oh, this is strong, this is strong. Nicotine doesn't bother me. I'm used to nicotine.
You should smoke this Novum Dialis when it comes out. That's a strong. It's my first one. It's a strong cigar.
And see, the memento mori, people, oh, this is so strong. I smoked it, was like, it's got some good flavor to it. I'm not picking up a ton of strength. It's flavorful, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm the complete opposite, because they'll say this is strong, and to me, I'm going, it's not that strong. But I'm used to, I mean, nicotine's all over me, so
Right?
it flows
It's all
for me.
relative. Like an NFL
Yeah.
player doesn't think that bench pressing 200 pounds is
Right.
a lot
Yes,
of weight.
exactly.
Right.
To me,
exactly.
that's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yes.
you know.
What would you say, and this is probably very subjective, especially, and probably changed over the years, what is your favorite cigar blend? And I don't even know if that's technically the right question, but
I mean, it's really tough for me. I mean, it's like asking who
Right.
your favorite kid is. You know what I mean? So it's like,
you mean you don't have a favorite?
thankfully I only have one.
Well, there
so
you
it's
go.
easy.
There you
Yeah,
go,
but
yes.
with cigars, no, it's much more difficult. I mean, it's you know, I have things that I like I was talking about the last rites for nostalgic reasons, and then I have, you know, usually whatever the newest thing I'm working on is what I'm the most excited about.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I love them all for different reasons, and I tend to smoke through pretty much everything we make very frequently.
Okay.
So it's yeah.
Well, I'm sure you want to test what you're doing and make sure it's.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
consistent.
even, you know, our regular core line stuff that we make all day, every day,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm smoking through that constantly. I mean, it's just whatever I'm in the mood for. But I don't know. If I guess if I had to pick, like, a cigar, I don't know. I still is.
No, that's all right. Once again, you have a much broader
Because that's
perspective
kind
than
of
I
the
do.
question Dwayne and I get asked by customers. We go in the humidor with them, and all of a sudden they'll say, well, what's your favorite cigar? And it's like, you know, that's a hard question, because I always tell them it depends on the day, the mood I'm in, what I've eaten. You know, there's so many things that
I
are
always
involved
say
in
it's
that.
those Cubans I got down in Mexico.
Yeah, on the cruise ship.
But-
Here, I got some Cubans for you on the dock. I can get those are not Cubans. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, the
But,
guy on
you
the
know, I
beach in
can-
backpack.
Yes.
I can't just pick out a cigar and say, hey, that's my favorite. But I have a lot of them that I really like in the humidor. So I'll start pointing out the ones that I like, the ones that I smoke a lot of. So, but I can't say, oh yeah.
Well,
this is my
it's just
favorite.
like last night. I was talking to James last night, and I reminded him of one he forgot about.
Which one was that?
The Havana del Sol, was that what it's called?
Havana Sol.
Havana
Yeah.
Sol. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great cigar.
Side project we did.
Mm.
For me, it's the MBK. One of the first times after we created the partnership, or I joined rather, James handed me our MBK blend, but it had a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper on it at the
Oh,
time,
wow.
and I was smitten.
Yeah.
And that's still I smoke all around everything we make, and you know, most of it speaks to me very strongly. But that NBK is like, if I had a desert island, it would be that one.
Just boxes of NB.
Yeah.
And you at least had a
Yep.
humidor to put it in.
Yeah, we need, if we're on a desert island, we need a couple of things, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of them.
All right. This is, I think, well, you were a little bit later to it, you said, but when did you guys decide that cigars would be a good business opportunity for you? When did the passion turn into a business opportunity?
You
When you
know,
thought it would?
Yeah, it's kind of I'll give you the short version of a long story, but so I had been a cigar smoker for several years. My wife and I had kind of lived all over the world, and the business that we had before this one was a travel company that focused on doing trips all throughout Central America. So we did a Nicaragua itinerary, wanted to include, I was super excited because I wanted to include SLE and factories.
Oh, okay.
And, bring cigars into it. A lot of our clientele were cigar smokers, and so during that process, I got to know, people on the manufacturing side, on the growing side, all of that. And the more time that I spent in SLE, I, smoking through tobaccos and trying different things, I noticed that there was a huge disconnect between the tobacco that I was smoking in Nicaragua and the cigars that I was buying in the United States.
Oh.
And I couldn't really figure out why everything I was buying in the States was kind of this generic profile that I felt like I had smoked 100 times before, but what I was smoking in Nicaragua, just raw individual tobaccos, were very bold, intense, a lot of character to it, kind of rough around the edges, a little gritty, and I just really fell in love with that. And so it was, that's what kind of sparked the idea. And so, before we started Black Label, I spent about 3 years learning as much as I could about tobacco.
Okay.
Just trying this, trying that. And I started to play around with blending, started making cigars for our travel company, for our customers on the trips, and people kind of fell in love with the cigars. They were very unique, very different. And so that kind of sparked the idea, or, planted the seed of maybe there's something to this.
Proof of concept.
Yeah,
kind of
and
deal.
so, we decided we were going to just kind of go for it as kind of a small side project, see what happened.
Okay.
I think one of our big early successes was that we approached this company very different than most people, because we had no history in the cigar industry, right? Like, I didn't have friends in the States that smoked cigars. I didn't know a retailer. I didn't know a sales rep. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any other cigar makers. So we very much had, no outside influence. So I think it was one of those cases where, ignorance is bliss, and we went at it, what I know now to be a very different way than most people approach it.
Sure.
And, thankfully I think that different approach really worked for us in the end, and what was a small side project started growing and growing, and we ended up selling off the travel company and doing cigars full
Here you
time.
are.
So
Yeah.
we were 10 years
That's what
later.
set you apart, is that
10
you weren't
years.
influenced by past,
Yeah, and
like
I
with history.
I
You're
still
like, well, we got to do what has already been going on.
right,
whatever.
like, and I still take that approach today. Like, I think a lot of people think it's really strange that I don't, often smoke other people's cigars. But the reality is like, I don't want you to hand me a cigar that's really popular, that people are, really liking right now, because what's going to happen is I'm going to smoke it, and then next time I go to blend something, I'm going to think, oh, well, people really like that. Why don't we do something like, what I mean?
Sure.
I don't
Right.
want any
Right.
kind of outside influence. I want to make the cigars that I want to make, and, that I want to smoke, and thankfully, still 10 years later, a lot of other people do too.
Sure.
But that's kind of my process, is to be very just kind of focused on what we're doing and trying to do something different.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, 10 years later, the proof is right in all sorts of lounges and places
Yeah.
all over that you weren't off the mark by any stretch. How about you, Derek? You kind of got into it a little bit, but yeah, if you want to expand.
Well, I'm at this point listening to all this, I'm not sure what question you're wanting me to focus on.
He's not either.
Yeah. No, well, when did you decide? I mean, obviously you got to know James. When did you realize that this was a business opportunity, or when you were...
Just that when I went down that journey after the campfire and the podcasts and the magazines, I attended the Big Smoke in Las Vegas, and I sat down at a banquet table with that old friend that gave me the cigar, and there they have 8 seats around the table, and it's not assigned.
Yeah.
So you're sitting with strangers, and he had gotten his food before me, and I said, he's a real prankster, and he sat down before me. So by the time I walked up, I introduced myself to these strangers, and I said, "Oh, my name's Derek." He said, "Oh, my name's David." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Oh, a little town in Texas. You wouldn't have heard of it." I said, "I don't know. I'm from Texas. I might have heard of it." He said, "Oh, it's called Tobacco Junction in Temple, Texas." And I said, and now I'm thinking my buddy put him up to this because I live in Temple.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is too, and I said, no, what's going on here? And he said, no, I said, well, you've been, I shop at your store, I've never seen you. He said, well, we work in the back office and we have the staff up front. And so he said, I'm opening another lounge, or I'm opening another spot. And I said, listen, I just want to be around this.
Yes.
I said, if you're setting it up, I'll help you move, I'll help you build shelves, I'll help you carry boxes. You don't even have to pay me, because I just wanted to immerse myself in learning more and being around it. So that was what, and then I got that, he did pay me.
Yeah.
And then that's how I got the job, and it was, full throttle at that point.
Yep.
Okay. That is a funny story.
Yeah,
like you said,
yeah,
sure.
small world, I get. Like I said, it's a closed industry, so
Right.
that room,
Right.
there's probably a pretty good chance you're going to run into somebody who runs in the same area as you do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Especially now that I know you're a sommelier. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a wrong way to say it. What is your favorite thing to pair with a cigar? Because there's a lot of things that go well with cigars. Meat, wine, of course.
People
bourbon.
aren't really going to like this answer.
Hey,
but
if you're what
a Coke,
Really? Okay. And why is
a
that?
Dr. Pepper.
Just because the sweet on it, or
Yeah,
what?
so kind of the way your palate works is sugar actually works really well to reinvigorate your palate.
Okay.
Kind of keep it live, keep it working, keep it tasting. Being a wine guy,
Sure.
wine is probably one of my least favorite things with a cigar because the acidity level tends to kind of zap your palate, right?
Oh,
and
okay.
the smoke reacts very differently with the acidity level in something like wine, to where you're really not tasting a lot of the full flavors from the cigar. But I always tell people, so when it comes to spirits, things like that, like anything with like a hint of sweetness to it, even like a rum, certain bourbons, things like that tend to do better, just because that little bit of sweetness will definitely enhance the smoke flavor.
Okay.
So hearing James say that, it just brings up a thing for me is, chocolate. They always say like dark chocolate goes, well, two reasons. It will cleanse your palate, or for when you're smoking. But then if you get a strong cigar too, it kind of helps if you're getting that nauseous feeling.
Yeah, any kind of sugar is
Yeah.
going to help with nicotine for sure.
But
this
That's why okay.
is the worst thing to have with a cigar.
Really?
No.
Yeah,
No.
because what water does is water does actually cleanse your palate, right?
Okay.
And so when you're smoking, in between puffs, like you really don't want to cleanse your palate. You want your palate to stay in tune with what you're doing, right? Like with
Alright.
smoking, like when you're tasting wines.
Yeah.
When you go tasting wines, like you don't take a drink of water in between each wine because
Right.
you want your palate in
Oh,
tune
sure.
with
That makes sense.
tasting the wine. So for me, I would never have water
Did you learn
with a
something
cigar.
here today? Dave? You sure?
I learned what he thinks about it. I mean,
But
he is
no,
the trained sommelier.
I always challenge everybody,
Okay.
because I know a lot of people that swear by, I just have water because I don't want any other flavors, right? So, and I always challenge them, like, have your cigar, have a drink of water,
Yeah.
and then have a drink of something else, like a
Okay.
Coke or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Oh, to get that sweet back
see
on your...
if that cigar tastes different when
Okay.
you're drinking something other
Well,
than water.
I am learning a lot
Going
here
going
already.
back to what James said, he likes a Dr. Pepper or a Coke. I think it was Dwayne that introduced me to it, but he said, try a chocolate Yoo-hoo.
Yeah. I mean,
And I'm like,
Good.
what? you know, this is, you don't drink chocolate like a chocolate milk with a cigar.
Well, that's what I thought you was going.
Yes.
Actually, the guy who introduced me to your guys' cigars, John,
Oh yeah.
we were sitting talking one day, and he goes, one of the best pairings with a cigar that he's ever had was a chocolate milk. And it was like, chocolate milk? He goes,
Yes.
you would be surprised. He goes, try it. Just try it and see
So
what happens.
that's why we carry Yoo-Hoos
Yeah.
in our little fridge up front,
Okay.
because once I tried that chocolate, we can't have milk, you know, because it expires too quick. So the Yoo-Hoo is the next best. And I said, all right, I'm going to try this, and it's kind of like mind blowing. It's like, wow,
I'm gonna have
this
to
is
do this
good.
now.
So we use this a lot with folks that come in. They'll want to know, you know, what pairs good with a cigar, and I tell them, get a chocolate Yoo-Hoo, and they're like, no way. And I said, just try it, and they're like hooked. They're like,